Hello everyone, this is my second attempt at a playthrough for my Mainline project in Auran Trainz. This time I decided to tour the oldest section of the project, for lack of a better idea, because the size of the project makes it rather difficult to cover it all at once, and this one is at least fairly close to final. So we have a yard, a junction, and then this main line, if we follow it, goes up into the mountains to an intermodal facility. There we have a McDonald's and the station. The junction is actually for a heritage railway with steam locomotives, so you see the water tower there. And then there's a village over here, which was the first village I probably built for Auran Trainz. So we have a water tower, a school, a church, and there are also some houses behind that. Most of this scenery is being built in, so it's fairly basic. And if we swing over here, we can see the branch. I'm not actually going to tour that because of time constraints, but we'll take a look at the Y. So we go over here. There are the switches for the Y. And there's the branch. And like I said, I'm not going to go down the branch because we don't have enough time. It does have basic semaphore signaling. Some heritage railways do have that, even though it's kind of expensive to implement. So we go down the line to where it goes from 3 sidings to a double track main. This used to be single track when I started the project, so now it sort of looks a little bit weird there, as if it were double tracked. But I justify that by saying, well, this is a modernized main line with concrete ties and so on. There's the first crossing. I'm using the default crossing from Auran Trainz there, which has the disadvantage that the cars go right through the gates because it was built for an older version of trains, and they've kept it, like much of the content. This line, I was considering a higher speed limit for it, but the problem is the signals are a little bit too close together. And it drops even more once you get into the curves up here. The topography is probably not very accurate to real life, but I did try to go all out with the scenery on this section, perhaps not realizing how big the project was going to become. It grew partly because I wanted a lot of signaling blocks, because I wanted to test cab signals. That was the original reason I built the project, and it's a little bit crazy when you think about it, because I've wasted a huge amount of time before even starting that other project. So there's a lake. I had forgotten I put this in, but I'm pleased that it's there now, with an island. And then this trestle here goes along a river. Instead of going on the river bank, it's actually in the river. And I don't know how practical that is in real life in terms of engineering, but this is a fictional line, so the erosion would not really be an issue. They don't simulate that at all on this. They don't even simulate wear and tear. So then we have a series of tunnels through these mountains here. So there's the first trestle, or actually first tunnel to a trestle, connecting the peaks. There's another one. Another lake, kind of way up in the mountains there. There you can see my ridge span of sorts. It goes along the ridge of the summit, and that's actually connected to the main line. It is the main line, but you have to loop around twice at least before you can get there. Basically for the grades. Now this is the first station I built after the first one. Has a small intermodal facility, probably not 100% accurate, but there it is, and there's a parking lot. The textures are bleeding through because that's one of the prefab parking lots. I was experimenting a lot, of course, when I first started this project, so there are a lot of things that you don't see again in other parts of the layout. Now you can hear locomotives coming. That's because there's a intermodal, which is coming from the other intermodal facility in the mountains. I built a fair number of AI traffic files for this, though they'll likely all be modified as I build a larger line. This is basically the default setup. Frame rate again is iffy because of the size of the project, and I've thought about solving that by cutting it into pieces. We'll have to see if I have to do that or not. You can see the scenery to your right when you're driving this line. So another mountain, or ridge, then a much larger mountain. And there you can see the line looping over itself the first time. So we go to the left, loop around and cross our line. Speed limit here is between 45 and 60 depending on the curvature. There's the loop. And then we go into the intermodal facility. A little bit further here. It's just a little bit further up the line. So there's the intermodal facility where the intermodal freight came from earlier. I've duplicated the Auran Trainz container station 4 times. And there's a village which is supposed to be the community for that intermodal facility. It includes a factory. You can hear some sound effects from the city because a lot of the buildings have sound effects. And then if we go over to the left here, we have that motive power depot, which is actually intended as an electric one. You can see the wires there. But if you're not inside it, you don't notice that. So I thought, well, that might be a nice generic diesel depot. I haven't used it very often when I've actually played the game. I mean, the thing is I've spent so much time building this layout, I've had very few chances to actually test drive it, except in pieces. It's got to be on my list that when I have a reasonably finished product, I should probably drive the whole thing. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching.